I bet that was. No, okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, yeah. That doesn't stir, that doesn't surprise me anymore. I mean, you know. No, so. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Sugar Land City Council meeting for Tuesday, February the 7th. A little bit about our agenda tonight. Lane is going to go through the invocation, and then she's going to introduce some special guests we have from American Legion Post 942, and they'll lead us in the pledge. And then we'll get into the meat of our agenda. Jennifer.
Could everyone please stand? Dear Father, I would like to cast a prayer of protection. Please protect the well-being of our residents, those who live, work in and out, and visit our city. For our local businesses to prosper so that we may all prosper from a thriving economy. For administrators, teachers, support staff, and all the students of our schools. Please protect our police, fire, and first responders and all staff that continue to perform their jobs safely and with perseverance. For our city officials, our mayor, council members, board and committee members, and all the volunteers that contribute their talent to serve wisely and with integrity. I pray for the protection and blessing of each one. Amen.
Amen.
And if you could now join us in the pledge, we have Commander Jesse Vargas and Roy Cerrillo. We welcome you to City Hall. I am a daughter of American Legion Post 271, so I want to thank you for your service. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you could lead us now in the Texas pledge.
Honor the
Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Jesse, Roy, thank y'all.
Yes, sir.
We're going to move now to item number 2, which is the public comment. Anybody that would like to speak about one of the agenda items is welcome to come forward. You'll be given 3 minutes. We'll waive the requirement for only 7 people. Anybody want to speak to one of the agenda items?
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I do have some pre-sign-ups.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and read those into the record?
Thank you, sir. First item is Harman Patel, 711 Lakeshore Drive, Sugar Land, Texas. Item description, Char House development. And his comments read, it was a plan to make a park and a shopping district. Why change to an apartment complex? And he is in opposition to the Char House development item. Next up is Kathy Bayless. No address on file. Subject is preserve our city landmark. I'm totally against to the development of a giant Section 8 low-income apartment complex in our city. Preserve Imperial Sugar Char House. Respectfully, Kathy Bayless. Next up is the last pre-sign up. There are some items in here that do not meet policy, Mr. Mayor, as being deemed offensive, and
Please omit those parts.
yes, sir, will do. Dear Mayor Zimmerman and council members, public comments regarding Imperial Sugar Land Char House redevelopment. We are writing to voice our displeasure and concern over the most recent development scheme as proposed by Puma. We feel it would disadvantage our city and risk our standing as a safe, crime-limited community in which people aspire to live. Our parents were among the initial residents of First Colony, purchasing their house in December 1979. Williams Trace was literally the second dirt road on the right off of Highway 6. As two adults in their early 20s who had moved here from the big city of Detroit, we were in culture shock at the abundance of cows, horses, and empty land. Our landmark was the Char House. Dad assured us never to get lost if we could see it from wherever we were. It was a working sugar factory at the time, along with NASA and the Astrodome. It was the list of tourist attractions when relatives came to visit the city. Like most Sugar Land residents at the time, we commuted and worked in the city of Houston. In the early 1980s, it was not difficult to notice how beautiful Houston neighborhoods were at the time. We would marvel at the different types of architecture in west and southwest parts of town, from the 1940s Cape Cods and Rancho Deluxes in Braeswood to the mid-century moderns in Sharpstown, where the astronauts lived, and the more current homes in Mission Bend, well considered spacious and comfortable. Some 40 years later, it is distressing to see what's become of not all, but many old neighborhoods in Houston. What happened, sadly and unfortunately, it can be traced to giant apartment complexes that were built in the 1980s to accommodate the flood of mostly young adults into Houston in what sociologists and historians now call the Rust Belt migration. I will omit the rest of that paragraph and continue on to the last. In the 21st century, who could blame apartment building owners for offering their white elephant investments as low-income housing to be subsidized by the government? What was intended as temporary housing for tenants to improve their finances and move into private housing markets frequently didn't turn out that way. They became breeding grounds for drug trafficking, theft, and violent crime. And Mr. Mayor, I'll just admit the rest of it.
All right.
Sincerely,
Thanks,
Kathleen Hanzak.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak on one of these items? Yes, ma'am, if you come forward, please. And if you state your name and address in the agenda item you're addressing.
Sure. Mary Margaret Zach, 2719 Canefield Drive. I too moved to the First Colony area in September of 1979 with my parents. We bought their home. We live here now. We also lived in Detroit, where we moved away from such crime and other horrible things. We don't want that kind of an apartment here. Our friends don't, our neighbors don't, our community doesn't. Why are we doing this? Just want to know. And I agree with all those people and all the people who didn't get here because they work in Houston. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, yes, ma'am. Name, address, and then what the item that you're going to speak on, please.
My name is Dakia Hewing. Address is 225 Matlich. And I wanted to speak on the item agenda of I want to discuss the lease approval listed on today's agenda. It seems backwards to approve a lease for a project that the City Council has not yet approved. Considering the city's role in securing funding for the Char House project, you would think the lease would be more in the city's favor. Specifically, the lack of renewal options and the one-sided early termination fee. I find both to be deeply problematic. The city is doing all the giving with very little by way of reciprocation. I know there is a lot of community confusion and distress over the Imperial Historic Project and what it entails. This is because the 2 town hall meetings in December 2022, the community was actively sought after and encouraged to attend. We found the plan presented to be encouraging and even exciting. However, in January 2023, the plans presented were completely different. This means the people have no idea what is going on and are very confused when told the plans have changed. Even the survey presented at the January 2023 meeting were based on data from town halls in December 2022 and prior, and those needs to reflect what is presented in January 2023 and after. This is a bait and switch that needs to be addressed, and with more time given to engage the community, as you did for the town halls in December 2022 and prior, so that we have some continuity and people have a better understanding and know whether or not they truly want this type of project, even at the risk of not having the chart house renovated at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address one of the agenda items? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Kenyatta, 7500 Branford Place, Sugar Land, Texas. Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, this project does not provide the best usage of the remaining undeveloped land. This is not a misdevelopment when most of it is residential. The Shar House is becoming an afterthought, and it seems to be a by any means necessary to get this middle housing, even though the costs of services aren't being factored in, or things that younger demographic desires. I saw the frequently asked questions sections about imperial development, and the answer to the questions were disturbing, such as the focus was on 20 to 30-year-olds that do not have any children, or you'll have double income, but they prefer you not to have any children. This was listed on the frequently asked questions. So my question is, what happens if someone who's in their 20 to 30s, which is the age range where someone typically gets married and have children, what happens if they want to move to that apartment? Why does it have it highlighted on the frequently asked questions? It seems like people would then be discriminated against. So that is on the website for Sugar Land. You can go ahead and pull it up. I also want to mention that Mike Toon of Puma Development stated his company was about a year in and they walked away. So why have the verbiage that there will be mutual penalties involved, not just for the city, especially since $5 million has already been invested for pre-development? It seems very one-sided. It seems like this is to Puma's advantage and not the city. We've already put $5 million into this. He's previously walked away. Who's to say he wouldn't walk away again? I also want to have someone provide specific details as to why it's a $1 billion investment, especially comparing it to other projects in the state. It seems excessive. Why did the city recently pursue Puma? It was said in the last meeting that the city pursued Puma. That's what Mike Toon said. Question is why? Why would you pursue a developer? Did other developers discuss that they have an interest in a project? Why does Puma have multiple projects in the city? I have a lot of questions. I'm not getting any answers. I know several areas of town need renovations, but it hasn't been done. With only 4% of undeveloped land remaining, these plans will not attract 20 to 30-year-olds since it has been stated that it's the target group. The proposed Puma plans are not forward-thinking or innovative.
About 30 seconds, ma'am.
I think some redevelopment should occur, but not with this developer and not this particular plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, we're going to go ahead and move on. We're going to move on to item number 3, the consent agenda. Consent agenda is going to be taken as one motion for all the items unless the council member wants to pull that item, at which time that one item will have a brief presentation and council will take action. Do I have a motion? Got a motion by McCutcheon, second by Kermali. You vote at this time, please. And it passes 7-0. Thank you, council members. Item number 4, donations. 4A, consideration of an action on acceptance of a donation from the Sugar Land Citizens Fire Academy in the amount of $42,606.87 and authorization of a budget amendment in the amount of $42,606.87 to revenues and expenditures. We have with us our Fire Chief, Doug Boker. Doug.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
What a great evening to get together and once again reflect on the support this community gives its public safety in both departments, police and fire. And it's my honor tonight to ask you to accept a donation from Citizens Fire Academy, which I'd like to recognize the members of Citizens Fire Academy and have them come up. But I asked Scott Bowerman to give a few updates on what our relationship with CFA AA is.
Thank you. Hey, Scott, welcome.
Thank you. So the CFAA provide a huge amount of support to the department and its members. They routinely provide people to support our training efforts and public education. They provide financial donations to members during hardship. They provide annual gifts to the stations. They provide a huge number of resources that we wouldn't otherwise have. And they're an amazing group of people, and we're very blessed to have them.
And so the president of, I don't know if you guys have ever met the president of the Citizens Fire Academy Alumni Association, the CFAA or AAA, they have an identity crisis on occasion. But your very own Suzanne Watley is the president, and I don't know if she would like to address or if she has asked one of her members to address. So Andrew, if you'd come forward. Andrew has a perplexed look on his face, which is not. Come on over here, Andrew. If you'd introduce yourself, please.
He's not shy either.
No. You're supposed to open with a joke. I don't have one. Andrew Wolf. I'm the parliamentarian for the CFAA, AAA, whatever we're calling ourselves these days. And we're a bunch of citizens that have gone through your wonderful academies and wanted to do everything we could to support them. And we love them all. And I think lots of you know the story I went through. Literally, if it weren't for the firefighters, I wouldn't be standing here today. And we just want to continue doing what we can to support them. There's things that the city should buy them and needs to buy them. And there's the cherries on the top of the sundaes that you don't always provide that we want them to have. And so we've had galas the past 2 years to raise funds to buy them stuff that makes their lives better and us safer. And that's all I'm going to tell you. They're great people, all of them.
Thanks, Andrew. If the members of the Fire Academy, if they'd stand, please, be recognized.
I think Andrew's not just a member, he's also a customer. So with that, I would ask that City Council would accept their donation of $42,606.87. And it seems like maybe there's a question from council?
No, I want to make a motion to approve.
We got a motion by Watley. Do I have a second? Got a second by McCutcheon. You vote this time, please. I think I know it's going to be passed unanimously.
Very good. And if I might take one bit of luxury, artistic license in this agenda item, it's my pleasure tonight to tell you that next year, like first year we had a ball, last year we had a gala. Next year we're combining with the police department to have a Sugar Land public safety event, and
A brawl.
It will be even bigger. It's going to be great, and I've partnered with the new police chief, Chief Poland, and I think it's going to be really something to look forward to. So with that,
Thank you, Doug.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, September, October of this year, keep your calendars open. Take care.
Sure. Item number 5, bonds, 5A. Consideration of an action on authorizing issuance of Fort Bend County Municipal Utility District number 192 unlimited tax bonds, series 2023. We have Ms. Rosita Bashoon, our finance manager. Rosita.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. This evening, I'll be presenting MUD 192. We'll be requesting the city's consent to issue $4.45 million in bonds. Oops, a little bit too far. Fort Bend MUD 192 was created on June 19, 2009, and a development agreement was approved by the city on December 21, 2010. The area is being developed as Greatwood Lakes. The district is approximately 100 acres, which includes 80 acres for residential and 20 for non-residential. As of November 2022, 223 homes are occupied and 35 homes are under construction or in the developer's name. Prices range from $500,000 to $590,000 per developer. The 2022 average tax home value was $384,000. Non-residential acres include a pocket park for 2 acres and 18 acres restricted for drainage, landscape, and open spaces. The district is located south of the Greatwood development of FM 2759. The voter have approved the bond authorization of $54.65 million and $43.975 million remain unissued. The district currently have a total of $5.74 million in outstanding bonds for 4 issues. The proposed bond issuance is for $4.45 million. With an assumed interest rate of 4%, the estimated annual debt service is $655,037. The maximum annual debt service is $750,394. The proposed debt issue will be paid off in 2046 and will extend the current maturity schedule by 1 year. This is an exception to city policy and needs council approval for the extension. A total of $2.98 million will be used for constructing water, sewer, and drainage projects in sections 1, 2A, and 2B. And a total of $1.46 million will fund non-construction costs such as bond issuance expenses and developer interest for $881,676. The 2022 certified taxable assessed value for the district is approximately $78.03 million, and the estimated 2023 taxable assessed value is $98.42 million. The 2021 tax rate was $1.50, and the 2022 tax rate is $1.45. with 83 cents for debt and 62 cents for maintenance and operation. The district lowered the 2021 tax rate by 5 cents, along with a shift of $13 for maintenance and operations to the debt rate. The district currently obtains its water supply and wastewater treatment from the city of Sugar Land following the annexation and dissolution of MUD 106. The district and the city entered into a water supply and wastewater services agreement on February 2nd, 2019. The MUD board approved this issuance at their board meeting on February 1st. Staff have reviewed and the proposed issuance, and it complies with city policy. Council action is needed for approval. The district financial advisor, Christine Crotwell, is here with us today to answer any questions you may have regarding the district and the 2023 bond issuance.
I've got a motion to approve. Let me go ahead and get a second, then we'll go to questions. Do I have a second? I'll second. Got a motion and I've got a second. Let me open it up to questions. Go ahead, Nishant.
Rosita, can you go back to the first slide? This is just clarification for my benefit.
The very first slide?
Very first slide. So,
Oops.
the
Oh, sorry.
next one. So the home prices are 500 to 590, but the tax average was 384. Is this not totally built out, or why is there such a delta if the homes are priced 500, but the average was 384?
Yes, I'll let Christine answer that question, please.
No, we are not completely built
Yep,
out.
come.
Sorry.
Christine, go ahead and identify yourself, please.
Christine Crotwell, Masterson Advisors, FA for Fort Bend Mud 192. Good to see you all here tonight. No, as we all know, certified values and the average home value that is presented there and also in the document is certified as of January 1 of 2022. There are continuing to be built new construction in the district, and so the remaining homes that are under construction and vacant developed lots, we are almost at full build out actually, are in a higher price point. So it's just a timing situation.
Thank you.
Christine, don't go away.
Don't go away.
I'd like to, I'd like to thank you. I know Anthony and your office answered a number of my questions. This is not necessarily directed to you or the attorney. It's directed to the developer who's not here. This is a marginal deal. This was marginal from the time it came to us. We noted that at the time. 100 acres, with a developer that controlled the development, an absorption of about, best I can tell, about 38 lots. He got reimbursed for not only the paving, he's getting now reimbursed for WS&D. And the extraordinary motion of the TCEQ approved that he get reimbursed for 5 years of developer interest. And I'm going to let you guys know, I'm going to write a letter under my signature as the mayor of Sugar Land, that it's a marginal deal. It should have never been created by the legislature. And I'm in total disagreement of the interest reimbursement being made to this developer who happens to be out of Dallas, and I could care less where he's from. But the cumulative tax rate on this deal, let me get to it, $3.14. And I've heard no end of stuff from the Texas legislature for a tax rate of 35 cents at the city of Sugar Land. And like I said, this is not directed at you all, but I plan on making sure the governor, lieutenant governor, and everybody in the legislature knows how dissatisfied I am with this particular deal. We've got a motion on the table. Like I said, it's not directed to you as the attorney and certainly not as the financial advisor. You guys are given what you're given. But again, it's a marginal deal. My question is, where in the world are the people that are going to represent the taxpayers that are paying $3.14 for a marginal deal? So at this time, we've got a motion, we've got a second. If no further questions, if you'll vote at this time. Yes, sir.
A lot of this is news to me. I've read what I've been given. And that is extremely disappointing to me. The numbers that you just provided, that I'll be candid with you, I did not see prior to this.
Well, these are in the preliminary official statement, so all I'm just
I missed
regurgitating.
them.
Well, I was a developer, so
Yeah.
I knew what
missed
to
that.
look for.
Yeah, because that is one of my things all the time is tax rate. So may I withdraw my second, or is that acceptable?
Well, I don't think, and Jennifer, you're going to have to help me here. I don't know that we can turn this thing down. It's been approved by the TCEQ.
If I could speak to the
Go ahead, Christine.
$3.34 that is overlapping tax rate. I cannot control what the Fort Bend ISD does, what y'all do, what the county does. That figure you spoke to is overlapping tax rates. So whether individuals are paying that or they are not.
Yeah, Christine, so let me, in your defense, let me break it down for you. So Fort Bend County, including the drainage district, is 45 cents. To your point, this is not a district tax rate.
Right.
We'll get there in just a minute. Lamar Consolidated ISD is $1.242. The district's $1.45. And then to your point, and I'm glad you brought that up, the overall tax rate, is $3.14, the total tax rate. That's not the district. but the district's $1.45. And when I got the first preliminary official statement, the numbers got corrected because you guys did put, I mean, the reserve balances were much stronger after, I guess, you've received some revenue.
And that's always a timing thing. We all know, y'all as a city and us as any district, we receive our taxes, they're all due, us as individuals and any political entity by 1/31, but we know postmarking, and then when we provide these statements to your staff for review, there may be some discrepancies. So we did update those to the most most updated balances that we could after the meeting that they approved.
Right, yeah. So again, this is not directed at you all, and I want to be clear about the facts. So it is an overlapping tax rate. It includes not only the district, the school district, but the county. And the number I spoke about was only the city. So the city tax rate would get added to county tax rate, which would be added to the Fort Bend ISD. So that's fair too. William, again, I don't think it's necessarily appropriate. I see the attorney is standing up and she would like to speak, so I'll yield the floor. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Council. Hannah Brooke with ABHR. And yes, I am the attorney that works on this district. And, you know, we do have, you asked about representation. We do have a resident.
Could you move
we do
closer?
have a resident director who is living in the community, who actually is attending the meeting. And so we do have representation, and, you know, we have worked on this deal from the beginning. And our, you know, charge is to, you know, reimburse the developer for what they have paid up front. And we have a long process that we go through. We have to get approval from TCEQ. They require a lot of financial feasibility. They have to be satisfied that we are financially sound, we can support ourselves. Our tax collections are very strong. We are a small community. It all comes in at the same time, and it came in the last 30 days. So we're, you know, I think 90% collected or more, which is, you know, fantastic. 93, and we'll probably be 99 after all the postmarks come in. And we've been financially stable for some time. So hopefully that answers some, you know, concern about the size of the district and its status. And yes, the homes are appreciating in value as everything is costing more to build. And so that's a good thing to help the district as well.
Jennifer, can you address for the Councilmember Ferguson?
Yes, sir.
I believe
So
that we are, because it was approved by the TCEQ, we're probably required to approve it.
Right, and so all we are voting on is whether this issue complies with city policy or not to grant our authorization. It's not our place to judge whether it's a good deal or not, unfortunately.
Thank goodness, right? All right, I've got a motion, I've got a second. Again, it's not directed at you all. It is, however, directed at the developer. Any other questions? You vote at this time, please. Can't see it. Thomas, I believe it's a 6-1 vote.
Yes, sir, 6-1 vote.
But it passes. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Hannah.
Mayor, it should have been a 5-2. That's what I gave.
Okay.
Oh, if I,
was 5-2.
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I didn't support it.
So it was a,
Nope.
okay, so it was a 5-2 vote, but it passes.
Yeah, my screen's off as well.
Okay, got it. Okay, yeah, I can't see the bottom of it. Yeah. Okay. Item number 5B, consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land Resolution number 2301, a resolution to the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, authorizing publication of notice of intention to issue certificates of obligation. Ms. Jennifer Brown, Director of Fiscal Projects.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And our item for this resolution, a little background. Staff applied for a loan from the Texas Water Development Board. We're getting very good at that. This is for the Covington Woods drainage improvements. This is a zero interest 30-year loan, similar to what we got for the Chimney Stone and Austin Park improvements and for the Oyster Creek Channel diversion, the $27.5 million that we got last September. This will be a $4.1 million loan in principal, and the Texas Water Development Board approved the loan on January 19th. This will be a combination general obligation bond and certificate of obligation issue. If you'll recall, we included $3 million in the 2019 GO bond election for this project. And with the escalation of construction costs, the engineer's estimate has increased to $4 million. So we asked the Water Development Board if we could apply for more than the $3 million, and they said yes. And so we will be issuing certificates of obligation for the additional funding plus the issuance costs. And that's where we get the $4.1 million. This is consistent with our financial management policy statement direction to use COs to leverage our funding opportunities. And we are recommending, similar to what we did with the $27.5 million loan, that we issue taxable bonds so that we can avoid rebating interest that is arbitrage interest due to having a zero interest loan. And we are now in an interest rate environment where we will earn interest on these funds while they're sitting in escrow. But there's no additional cost to the city. There's no additional cost to the Water Development Board for issuing taxable bonds because they are a tax exempt entity. So they are on board with that. On another note, we did go back and ask, Councilmember Kermally had asked the question with the last issue, if we could go back and basically reissue the first loan as taxable, and the Water Development Board said no. They are not willing to do that because they had a lot of people asking to do that. It was a good try, though. It was a great idea. So the project will be funded from $3 million in GO bonds and $1.1 million in certificates of obligation to fund the $4.1 million total budget, including issuance costs. Because we're issuing COs, we are required to provide notice of intent to issue the COs. We have to publish the notice once per week for 2 consecutive weeks. The first notice must be 46 days prior to the sale date, and we also will post the notice on our website for 45 days continuously before the sale date. So the recommended action this evening is approval of Resolution 2301, which will state our intent to issue the certificates of obligation not to exceed 1.5 million, although we're only planning on issuing 1.1 million with the terms of the loan from the Water Development Board. We're planning to bring back the bond resolution on April 4th for your approval. The publication of the notice would be next week and the following week, which would be February 15th and 22nd. And then once the bonds are approved by City Council on the 4th, we will get all of our paperwork in line, turned into the Water Development Board, and we'll anticipate a closing date of May 9th. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Suzanne?
So thank you. So if we're looking at a closing of May 9th, where does that put us on construction?
That is an engineering question.
I know. Jesse.
Jesse's here. I'm not the one to answer that one.
Hello, I'm Jessie Lee, city engineer. We are currently at a design at 90%. We plan to start construction in June. As soon as we close the loan, we can start construction.
Perfect. Thank you. May I make a motion to approve?
Got a motion to approve by Watley. Do I have a second? With Kermally? Second? Yes. Any further discussion? Vote at this time, please. And it's a 7-0 vote. Thank you, council members. Item number 6, public hearings. 6A, receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on a proposed amendment to Ordinance 1869 allowing for additional fuel dispensing stations at the Costco fueling facility at 17520 Southwest Freeway. We have with us tonight Laura Waller, our planner. Laura.
Good evening. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the Costco site. You are all probably fairly familiar with it. It's down off of 59 right before you get to University. So it'll be at the intersection of Wallingford and 59. The site is, Costco is requesting to add an additional row of pump dispensers. So that's going to require an amendment to the PD. So the original ordinance, 1869, requires a maximum of 10 pumps and 20 stations. And the existing development actually only developed 8 pumps. So that's 2 rows of 4. They could have, at the time, developed 2 rows of 5. But the way the site developed, they are now requesting to, instead of adding another row or another column, they want to add 4 pumps across the back. So it'll be 3 rows of 4 rather than 2 rows of 5. This does require that numerical cap to be removed or adjusted in the PD. Per the new regulation, they would have to follow the site plan layout, which does now depict 3 rows of 4. So as part of that, staff did look at the internal and external circulation for this site, knowing that it has been some problems in the past. There was a traffic impact analysis that was concurred with, as well as driveway and internal layouts that have already been redesigned. And are in the design and construction process to improve that existing internal and external traffic, even before they move forward with adding the pumps. So we have already worked on some of that traffic issues. This zoning document is to amend that PD so that they can potentially move forward with their pump addition later. So this is the proposed site plan as a whole. This does show the new added driveways as well as some of the new internal circulation and the new row of pumps. So on here, if the mouse gonna, there it is. Okay, so there's an additional driveway off of Westcott, an additional driveway off of Wallingford, and they have also widened this driveway here by the fuel stations to allow for better and faster access in and out of this first driveway. And then down here in the corner, you can see the additional 4 rows of new pumps here. So these are the 8 to remain, and then the 4 new ones there. Here's a zoomed in site plan, just so you can see that the pump details in closer. This is not to be codified as part of the PD, but just wanted so you guys to see exactly where those pumps were going to be laid out. The elevations do require the pitched roof, so these are the elevations for the addition to match the existing pitched roof. And then the text changes, these are the excerpt pages. The rest of the document, as far as the text goes, is going to remain the same, but there are the conditions for the fuel sales. So down here, letter D has changed. Instead of being 10 islands with 20 pumps, it now says that the pump islands and dispensing to be constructed in accordance with the site plan. And that is the site plan that we just looked at. P&Z Commission did hold a public hearing on January 26th. No speakers were present at that. There were questions and discussion that primarily revolved around the extent of changes and concerns about the existing and potential new traffic. The applicant and staff provided feedback regarding those changes, as well as noting that the existing traffic changes, there are some changes that would be implemented before the pumps are added, as well as how to handle traffic flow during construction and after any anticipated traffic issues. The commission then unanimously voted to recommend approval of the amendment to the existing FDP. So therefore, staff and commission recommend approval of the ordinance. That'll be ordinance 2291 that repeals 1869 and establishes the new regulations. We also do have the applicant is present to make a short presentation, go in more detail about some of their traffic impacts that they. Larry, would you like to come on?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor and council members. My name is Larry Jurczyk. I'm a planner and consultant for Costco. Laura's correct. We did have a presentation tonight, and that was going to be basically used to answer any questions you may have tonight. So I think Laura has basically summarized exactly what we are proposing to do tonight. We are amending that existing PD development with the addition of those fuel pumps. And we're attaching the exhibit, which is a site plan. At this time, I really don't have anything further to add except that the internal driveways that's on Westcott and Wallingford are really important to understand. You have to look at the whole project together, not only the fuel expansion, but the additional pumps, but you have to look at internally what Costco is doing to improve circulation internal as well as exterior as well. So we're actually providing more opportunities to get out of the property and into the property, thereby bypassing some of the fuel lanes and queuing that we're seeing today. So as Laura mentioned, that construction would happen, and we have drawings right in for permit review today. And we're expecting construction to commence here in the next 2 months. And the fuel expansion would commence after those driveways would be put in. So the driveways are going in first, the fuel expansion would come in second. So I don't think there's any need to go through a detailed presentation at this point, but my traffic engineer, Chris Tiesler, is here to answer any questions. He is our national traffic consultant. He handles projects from the West Coast to the East Coast to the Midwest to Texas, of course. And he has done a very thorough and detailed study, which I believe Laura and her staff concurs with. So we would be happy to answer any questions.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and, what we're going to do right now is we're going to hold the questions. We're going to open the public hearing, and we're going to see if there's any public comments. When we close public hearing, then I'll open it up to the council members for questions. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing for anybody wanting to speak on the proposed amendment to ordinance number 1869 for additional fuel dispensing stations at the Costco facility at 17520 Southwest Freeway. Anyone wanting to speak at the public hearing?
We don't have anyone in advance signed up, Mayor.
Okay, nobody signed up. Second call. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. We'll open it up to the floor of the council members if they have any questions. William? Yes.
So this thing has made it all the way to us. There was a cap for a reason on the PD. Correct me if I'm wrong. I have no idea why there was a cap. Can someone tell me that?
So I was not here, but what I have heard is that the original cap was because they wanted this site to be capped at the same amount of fuel stations as another similar grocery store pump station. I'm not certain of it, but I believe that was the case. And that is why the cap was chosen at this number, is because they did not want this site to have more pumps than another site.
Okay, fair enough. May I
follow up?
Follow up. I don't like the traffic around there personally, but that doesn't matter. It sounds like you guys are really making some attempts to improve that. I love that. I just wonder if we're going to be inundated with all these other businesses that are under caps that now they want to add pumps. Is that something we're thinking could happen?
So that would depend on exactly how the site itself is governed. So some of them are governed by PDs like this one. And if there is a cap on that business, then they would potentially have to amend it if they want to add more pumps. But there is a chance, I'm not sure how, I'm not familiar with the other sites' ordinances, but I don't think all of them have caps. So there are also some that are in our standard zoning districts where they only have a conditional use permit. So they might not have a strict number of caps. It might be other things such as they just have to screen their areas, or it has to be at the back of the lot. So those also might not require amendments that come before you as well. So it kind of depends on each site. As to, and then some sites don't have special zoning or a conditional use permit. They were existing and annexed the way that they were. So they would potentially need to come through for a conditional use permit to add gas sales, that kind of thing. It just kind of depends. It's a site-by-site basis. And as to how intensely they want to increase their pump sales as well.
And if one last follow-up, 2020 taught us a lot of lessons, okay? We know that. And I know that Costco was a key benefit to our community, and the traffic was unbearable. And so I don't want to see us to return to that, but it sounds like your team is working on solutions. And I hear you say that the solutions are adding the pumps won't undo our solutions to traffic flow there, because it really does get, the weekends especially, it's just brutal. And I don't know if that's a question, or maybe it is when I say you've thought about all your little new inlets and all that is going to be able to still manage the traffic.
Great question. I'll have Chris answer.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Chris Teasler with Kittleson and Associates, Costco's traffic engineer. Councilmember Ferguson, to that point, the addition of the fuel pumps for Costco is actually part of the solution, because what we're essentially doing is adding 50% more processing capacity to the fuel station itself. So the queues and the amount of time that people wait today, because there's only 16 positions, right? We're adding 8 more for a total of 24. That's going to eat through that demand basically half again fast as it does today. And so the wait times are reduced, the queues are reduced, coupled with these other improvements with the new driveways and more multiple ingress and egress locations. It's going to allow members to find their way better and not be kind of concentrated or bottlenecked to the 2 existing driveways, but now have 4. And cumulatively together, that's really going to help really move the needle on improved traffic operations, both on site for Costco as well as at the driveways.
In response to that real quick, there's sort of a kind humor about Costco. I've heard people say about that parking lot, if you can drive through Costco from one side to the other, you should be able to get your driver's license. Should be able to pass the test, because it has been a real challenge, and I don't want to add to that. Thank you so much, by the way.
You're welcome.
Carol.
Yes, to piggyback, I guess, on what Member Ferguson has said, it has been really dangerous and time consuming at times to get out of Costco. I refuse to go there late afternoon to early evening, on weekends, on holidays. So because of the danger and the time consuming nature of trying to get out of there, I'm confined to only going there non-holidays during the week, up until about 3:30. So I certainly hope that what you're doing here is going to make things better and safer for our residents.
Sean?
Mayor and council, Carol and I had an opportunity to visit with Lauren, because this being up against Carol's district and my district. And Lauren, you had a beautiful map that you showed the traffic flow and the additional lanes and stuff. Do you by any chance have that tonight? Because I think it'll help William ease his concern.
Yeah, it's not part of the presentation, unfortunately. Okay. I'm sorry.
So can you go back to that, to the little black and white and the zoomed in version?
So this might be kind of helpful, just so you can see what it looks like now. So right now there's only about 2.5 lanes here. There is no entrance here, no entrance here. These are the only 2 entrances. So the proposed site plan here has this, it's expanded, so you can have the full right turn lane. There's a new right out, right in, left, all full intersection here, as well as an additional one up here off of Westcott. So the image you're talking about was from actually the larger TIA that our staff did. That was done as part of the Brazos turnaround and 59 improvements, and including some other improvements that are underway for some of our future CIP projects. But as for this site itself, these are the items that are pertinent to this site itself.
Right. So not only have we added an ingress on Westcott, but we've pushed the other one on Wellington further down, so it's not a bottleneck coming off of 59 and getting in there, because that always happens, the right turn lane.
So it's not pushed any further down. There's just it's been widened down here so that you can turn out easier to the right, and then there is a second entrance as well. So this was primarily for the gas pumps only, and then this is primarily to get to Costco, the store.
So an additional entrance and then widening to allow that right turn to go through. Okay, thank you.
Susan?
I'll be quick. So what he's talking about there is that egress that you're talking about on, is that Wallingford? What is that, sir? Excuse me. Is there still a left turn there that just gets into all that traffic that comes in? So the problem is coming out of Costco, you've got the incoming traffic and they're trying to turn left and you're trying to get to Amagi Bank or something and they're crossing over and they back up. Is that where we're working on? Does that make sense? I can never turn into Amagi Bank because there's a line of cars coming out of Costco blocking that.
So, James Turner, City Traffic Engineer. So to that respect, the left turn bay will still be there. The city has several projects coming up. One of them is to build an acceleration lane off of the 59 frontage. That is to help that line, that queue, dissipate a lot faster. That's in the works. We're trying to get some agreements with TxDOT, some funding agreements with them, and trying to get that into play. While I'm on the subject of improvements as well, the University Winding Project is going to improve West Scott at University, adding a dual left out of there to help dissipate that traffic. And again, hopefully some of this traffic, different routes. You know, people now have options, better options. Either they can come to the frontage road or use that West Scott, which will be a lot more efficient in that respect.
So it's going to remove that bottleneck coming out while we're trying to go in and crossing over?
That will still be there, but the hopes is that the less of the queue, and I'm not sure of this image, no, it's not going to show that. There's still 2 lanes coming southbound on Wallingford, so hopefully that will be kind of a pseudo left turn into it, so people are allowed to kind of stall there, and you know, just be safe and try to make that left turn. But other than that, I mean, it's hard to address that scenario other than by making it safer, by reducing the queue, like I mentioned at the frontage road.
All right, thank you.
Got a motion by Jacobson, second by Kermali. You vote at this time, please.
Thank you.
And it's a 7-0 vote. Thank you, council members. Item number 6B. Public hearing, receiving out here all persons desiring to be heard on a proposed rezoning of 6.241 acres from Telfair West Commercial District General Development Plan to Tarrington Office Park Final Development Plan. And we've got Ms. Lauren Fair. Lauren?
Yes, sir. Hello. Okay, so we're going to move across University over to Tarrington Office Park. It's the final development plan before you all this evening. So we will be off of Coatesworth Avenue here, Addison, Telfair Avenue, and Tarrington Avenue here. This is the existing Sprouts development, and Acura here. So final development plan is about 6.2 acres located behind the Sprouts Shopping Center. It consists of several one-story buildings with surface parking. The use list is focused primarily on professional office with some retail, some limited services, some medical, banking, restaurant. However, drive-through lanes will be prohibited. So this is the layout plan. I've just put 2 up here to give a little bit of detail. So again, Tarrington, this is Sprouts back of house here. So you can see several low impact, 1-story, more office condo-like buildings with access from Tarrington and access from Coatesworth down here. So again, just kind of low scale office development here. And then both of these just have some detail on landscaping and some of the pedestrian elements as well, which is be codified as part of the ordinance. And these are the elevation perspective exhibits. So again, as I mentioned, about 18 to 20 feet to tallest point, and you know, low impact or low scale, kind of modern look to them. So Planning and Zoning Commission held their public hearing in October. Discussion focused on several items between the staff and the applicant and the commission. We took a look at the permitted land uses, and there were some questions on some size limitations that were originally on there. And the thought was perhaps it'd be better to remove them to sort of allow more of the market to drive how the office condos developed. Then a discussion on some of the pedestrian traffic and location of the pedestrian plaza area, really in an effort to allow the patrons of the buildings and those that work there to have a place to kind of sit and be outside, and then also make sure that there was connection as best we could across to the Sprouts where there's some restaurant options over there. Discussion on some additional landscaping, making sure that was up to standards. And then a discussion was held on the building elevation. So this centered around the fact that, as you saw, those are proposed, the applicant has proposed them to be more of a modern look, whereas the commission's question centered around whether they needed to be more the red brick that you see elsewhere in Telfair. The applicant stated his intent was to have a more modern look, similar to some of the majority of the buildings really that you see along Brisbane Court, just adjacent to the Acura dealership. So the commission's asked the developer to consider utilizing the red brick, but he has made the decision to move forward with the more modern look, sort of in alignment with the buildings on Brisbane. So with that, we came back for consideration and action in January, and the commission did recommend approval by a 6-2 vote, 2 of the votes due to the building elevation discussion. Just quick wrap up. All the other conditions that were placed on the PD from the commission were taken care of. So modifications to the permitted land use list removed most of the size restrictions, as well as a couple uses that just didn't really make sense in this kind of development. Worked through the pedestrian elements to make sure the plaza was in place, relocated to make sure all the internal, external sidewalks made sense. There were some clerical edits and then some revisions to the landscape plan to beef up a little bit of that landscaping. So we did notify, as per usual, for the public hearing. We have not received any comments in advance of the meeting and not aware of any opposition. And so with that, we would recommend holding the public hearing, first reading of the ordinance at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. At this time, we're going to hold our questions. We're going to open the public hearing for anybody that wants to speak on the 6.241 acres from Telfair West Commercial District General Development Plan to Tarrington Office Park Final Development Plan. Anyone from the public? Thomas, anybody signed up?
No, sir, no one signed up in advance.
Second call. This time we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. We're going to move on. First consideration of and action on City of Sugar Land Ordinance Number 2290, Ordinance of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, providing for a change of zoning from Telfair West Commercial District General Development Plan to Tarrington Office Park Final Development Plan for approximately 6.241 acres of land known as the Tarrington Office Park, located along Telfair Avenue, Tarrington Avenue, Coatsworth Avenue, and Addison Avenue. Council members, floor is open. Carol?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, so as you said, the commission recommended that the brick on the facade of the building should be similar to the red brick color that is typically in Telfair. And I know that the buildings along Brisbane Court are different, but Brisbane Court is a dead-end street, and it's on the other side of Addison from this, whereas, you know, this building is going to be along Telfair Avenue, which is one of the main thoroughfares. So, and of course, and this is, I said, it's a modern look with sort of like, I don't know, charcoal and beige or something like that. So I did get input from residents that they felt like this was going to stick out like a sore thumb with this particular facade. Okay.
You sure?
Lauren, when you go from a commercial district general development to a Tarrington office final development, can they do restaurants and banks in there? Because you mentioned restaurants and banks.
Yes, okay. That's on the use list.
That
yes,
is
sir.
on the use list. Okay.
Yes.
That was my only question.
Just no drive-throughs.
Okay. Mayor, this is my district. That land has been sitting there for a long time. It's time to do something with it. I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion by Kamali. Do I have a second? Got a second by Lane. You vote at this time, please. And it's 7-0 vote. Thank you, council members. Item number 7, ordinances and resolutions. 7A, consideration of and action on City of Sugar Land Resolution number 2257, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, adopting a city council policy for a Great Homes Design Economic Development Program. And we have John Soriano, our Community Development Program Strategist. John.
Howdy. Let's see. It's my first time here. Okay, here we go. Let's start with why. City Council, to stay relevant and to preserve Sugar Land's quality of life for our current and future residents, you have identified redevelopment as a key priority for the city. Every city has a life cycle in which we only have two choices, redevelopment or decline. A city's housing stock is part of this, and it can either get renovated and redeveloped or fall into decline. As we continue to compete with other cities in Texas, this program proposed is a step towards updating homes and redeveloping our housing options. In doing so, the city will create new options for future homeowners and create beautiful neighborhoods and a housing stock for our residents, families, and our workforce. Work to date included an internal housing study of our housing stock, research of other cities' residential reinvestment programs, and community engagement. I wanted to acknowledge the all-in team that contributed to this project in the ways that you see here: Jennifer May, Jim Calloway, Devin Rodriguez, Thomas Harris III, Ethan Cantu, Shekinah Kahongo, Ruth Lomer, Shay Smith, Trevor Surface, Zora Baig, Kareem Heshmat, Doug Adolph, Elizabeth Huff, Lisa Kochik-Meyer, Kimberly Terrell, Paulina Valero, and Glazette Santana-Rillo. With that, for consideration and action, I bring to you today two resolutions adopting a City Council policy for a Great Homes Design Program and a Great Homes Update Economic Development Program. These are the two pilot programs under the initiative of Great Homes, which is a residential reinvestment initiative created to empower Sugar Land's homeowners, both our residents and our workforce, to invest into their community by preserving, protecting, and enhancing Sugar Land's single-family housing and neighborhood areas. All single-family residents located in the Sugar Land city limits would be eligible for participation in these pilot programs. Let's start out with the Great Homes Design Program. This program provides Sugar Land homeowners and HOAs with a creative, re-envisioned exterior home design at an affordable cost, exclusive to program participants. Now, you're probably wondering, why should you get a home design? An exterior home design from Great Homes can give homeowners guidance and creative direction that they can use to drastically improve their home through simple cosmetic upgrades. Modern aesthetic renovations can bring a lot of value to your home and be visually transformative. Getting a home design will provide a way forward for our homeowners to get inspired and take their exterior home renovations to the next level. Participants in this program will be given one coupon voucher for discounted design services from the vendor of their choice. You have two choices, Brick & Batten or DeZinli, which I'll go over. Both of these firms were selected through a competitive request for qualifications, and the staff committee was really happy with both of the quality of service of both of these highly regarded popular design firms, as well as the opportunity to give our residents options as to which firm they'd like to go with. Finally, if a homeowner incorporates at least one, substantially incorporates at least one exterior improvement, they can also apply for a rebate of up to $500. To qualify for the rebate, the improvements must be completed within 6 months of receiving a design, and a rebate application must be submitted. Let's start with the first vendor, option one, Brick & Batten. Through Brick & Batten, program participants will receive a new design of rendering of their home and a clickable shopping list so that they can implement the design to their home. These services will be provided at a significant discount to program participants. The process is relatively simple. You go to their website, you fill out a form using your voucher code, and participants will send a picture of their home and specify exactly what preferences and ideas that they have, as well as their HOA guidelines or deed restrictions that may affect the design. They work with these ideas and deed restrictions all the time, and both vendors will create a design and a shopping list that participants will both love and actually be able to accomplish. Using the voucher, you can obtain their one-sided design service, which is normally priced at $9.95. Through this program, you'll be able to get that service for only $200, reflecting a significant discount of almost $800. And so I really hope that this boutique design service becomes more obtainable for Sugar Land residents and inspire transformative improvements. 125 vouchers from this particular vendor will be available in the pilot. The second vendor that you can choose from is DeZinli. It's another design firm that went through the RFQ that provides the clickable shopping list, inspiring home designs, and Participants will also be able to share their ideas and restrictions with this vendor. One key difference here, the design service from Design is normally about only $200, and by receiving a voucher through this program, services from this vendor would be available for only $25. And so there will be 125 vouchers available from this vendor, so 250 total from each vendor. This design firm is very similar, but it has a slightly different product. Designs can be subjective. An analogy I'll use is, well, I prefer to get a haircut from one person. Someone may prefer a different person to get their haircut from because of subtle differences in the service, how it's provided, and cost. And so it'll be up to the program participants to do a little research to choose the vendor that they want to go with, and which will fit their individual preferences. And so I'm really excited to be for this program to be able to offer two different options. The proposed budget for the Great Homes Design Program is $128,000. This is a one-year pilot program funded through sales tax revenue via one-time capacity available in the general fund. $100,000 will go towards 125 designs from each design firm, totaling 250, and $20,000 will be reserved for 40 available rebates of $500. Key performance indicators will be collected to evaluate our success and with this pilot program, as well as how many people actually implemented their design, where the program was utilized, and what type of projects were actually accomplished. With that, I'll move on to the second program, the Great Homes Update Program. This is an incentive program that promotes local economic development by encouraging reinvestment in single-family properties. Eligible homeowners can apply for a reimbursement incentive of up to $10,000 to complete qualifying projects that rehabilitate, enhance, or refurbish the exterior of the residential property. If you're approved for the program, you can get a reimbursement of up to 10 to 25%. And all single-family residences within the city are eligible to participate in the program. Townhouses, multifamily buildings, and condos are not eligible, and any occupancy and ownership, like renter-occupied or owner-occupied, are eligible. And then additional requirements include being current on your taxes, and the property being covered by a valid and current homeowner's insurance policy. Just some of the eligible projects that someone could apply with are listed here. You can apply with any combination of these projects, and participants would be encouraged to combine multiple improvements in their submission to meet that $4,000 minimum total project cost requirement, and to submit as large of a project as you can, so that you can accomplish in order to receive the maximum incentive that you can get. Once an application is approved and a project is approved, they'll be required to enter into an agreement with the city that outlines the terms of receiving a reimbursement. Applicants will manage their own project, and work on the project must be started and fully completed after an agreement has been executed between the city and the applicant. Once the applicant completes the project and submits all the reimbursement documentation, the city will then send a reimbursement payment. Let's see. This is only for new projects, and there's a lot of measures in place to maintain the integrity of this program. For example, multiple members of staff will be reviewing each application and reimbursement. Strong documentation is required to get admitted in the program, and the program agreement also has strict requirements for reimbursement. So some of that strong documentation that are required to be submitted includes pre and post project photos, canceled checks and bank statements, and paid invoices showing that the contractor was actually paid the amount that was kind of set out in the agreement. A copy of any required permits, and we'll be encouraging folks to get permits for projects that require them, since they will have to be submitted. They have to, in the agreement, participants have to agree that the projects can't be part of an insurance claim, and the documentation must show that they paid the full amount for the project. Finally, site visits will also be conducted by staff on a pre- and post-project basis to confirm that, that the photos that were sent in were actually valid and that the project was done. All homeowners in Sugar Land are eligible to participate for up to a 10% incentive. However, if you're in an older home that was built in 1994 or earlier and has a Fort Bend County Appraisal District value, market eligible for up to a 25% incentive. Regardless of what incentive bracket a home falls in, we hope that this incentive moves homeowners to make significant renovations and upgrades to modernize their home. This is a one-year pilot program, again funded through sales tax revenue available in one-time capacity through the general fund. And with this amount, the city would have incentivized approximately 2 to $5 million in new residential improvements, affecting approximately 500 homes. The program will be administered through a few members of staff with cross-training occurring in case extra capacity is needed to administer the program at any time. To test the pilot, key performance indicators will be collected and reported, such as the number of homes, types of improvements, and what amounts of projects actually occurred. If the program's successful, the option to continue in the program will be considered, possibly administered at a greater, even a greater capacity. We're exploring maybe the use of a consultant to kind of expand that capacity and make the program happen at a greater extent. So next steps, if this program is approved, the marketing campaign would be launched tomorrow for a program launch the day after Valentine's Day, February 15th. And more information can be found on our website at sugarland.ecodev.com/great/homes. And so with that, staff recommends approving Resolution 2257, adopting a city council policy for the Great Homes Update Economic Development Program, and a Resolution 2255, adopting a city council policy for our Great Homes Design Economic Development Program.
Okay, so let me kind of recap for everybody, because we've got, under item number 7, we've got 7A and B. One's the design portion, one's the construction portion. Under 8, contracts and agreements, 8A is actually authorizing one of the design firms. So we're going to take them one at a time. We're going to go first with item number 7A, which is the design portion, which is consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land Resolution number 2257, which is the Great Homes Design Economic Development Program. It's open for questions. William?
The program 1 and program 2, is it both, or is it one or the other?
I love that question, both. In fact, I would encourage any program participant to use the design program and then use that design to inspire their improvements for the update program as well. So you can use both.
A follow-up to that is, I served on HOA in Greatwood probably too long. And I don't mind telling you, changing a home is probably more difficult to do because of the HOA than it is the city at times. So I'm kind of curious how this design group in option 1 or program 1, how do they know what the ACC committees in First Colony or anywhere in our city, how would they have any clue as to how to design a home for Telfair or Greatwood or Covington Woods? How would they know?
I love that question. I will say, as any homeowner, if you own your home, I think it's a good practice and partially your responsibility to know the deed restrictions for the home that you purchased, right? Based on my experience with working with HOA representatives and ARC boards too, I mean, these are publicly available, often available on websites. I highly encourage, if you don't know your deed restrictions or your HOA guidelines, just ask your HOA. That's the easiest way to do it. And I know that sometimes folks will feel like HOA restrictions and deed restrictions can inhibit some of the improvements that they can make to their home. But I will say that, not every home has to be painted white and black trim. You can modernize your home with modern improvements, fix your driveway, change your windows while staying in those restrictions. So highly invite people to really just take a step.
One more follow-up.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I love how you say great question or whatever. That was hilarious. That's twice you did that. Now, again, I just want to say I see a disaster coming, if I may. And the only reason I say that is I served so long on ACC. People have all the good intentions of improving their home, and some organization somewhere in the nation will tell them, hey, here's a great idea for your home. I'm just telling you, and you know this because you deal with the HOAs, the guidelines are rather black and white, but not to the design ideas of the homeowners that have their own little clever ideas. And I just see program 1, honestly, is just, I just see it as a nightmare for ACCs going, no, yeah, cute idea, no. And even though it may be in line with what we want to do, the HOAs really need to kind of build their programs around what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I respect that. I actually hope to use these programs as a tool to really build our relationships with our HOA partners, right? To address for them, this is a great tool to help them address homes that are declining and could use that help. But also, it's also a great tool to build on our existing relationships with our HOAs and help HOAs re-examine their own guidelines and deed restrictions, which may inhibit development, right? We have two options, redevelopment or decline, and so we should choose the better option.
Carol?
Yeah, so John, so for homeowners that are in a HOA, one of the many ones we have here in the city, if they participate in this design program, would they send their HOA's deed restrictions to the designer so they would have it when they design the program, their homes? Or would the designer just send them back a new design and that the homeowner would take it to the HOA, and then if the HOA fails it because it doesn't meet their deed restrictions, and they would go back to the designer, and the designer would redesign it at no charge to make it comply with the deed restrictions, because some of these things are pretty lengthy.
Right, and with both vendors, there's opportunity for a free revision if they didn't get it right, which is really nice and gives that little bit of flexibility. And both vendors are it's very common for people to send their deed restrictions or HOA guidelines to them. They work around them all the time, and so we'll encourage our program participants to do that. So,
motion to approve.
Anderson, this is for program 1.
Yeah, this is for the design part. I got a motion and a second. If you vote at this time, please. And it's a 6-1 vote. Thank you, council members. Item number B, consideration of and action on City of Sugar Land Resolution number 2255, resolution of City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, adopting a city council policy for Great Homes Update Economic Development Program. This is the construction piece. I'll make a motion to approve. I'll open it to questions. Got a motion and a second. Open to questions, council members. Vote at this time, please. Yeah, it's a 7-0 vote. Well, you just don't like the design part. You ready to go with the construction? It's the old glass half full or half empty. Yeah. Item number 8, contracts and agreements. 8A, consideration of an action on authorization of contract with Brick and Batten Inc. in the amount of $81,250 for 125 vouchers coupons for discounted exterior design services for city residents for the Great Homes Design Program. I'll make the motion. Got second. I'm opening up for questions. Any? Vote at this time, please. Stuart, I got you. Confirm. And it's a 6-1 vote. Thank you, council members. The old glass half full, glass half empty. All right. Item number 8, B. Consideration of an action on authorization of a 5-year lease agreement between Puma Development, Inc. and the City of Sugar Land for the Imperial Char House building. We have Councilmember Kamali is going to step out. We'll allow him to do that. And we have, as our host here, we have Jim Calloway, Director of Special Projects, and Devin Rodriguez, Deputy Director of Economic Development. Devin, let's start with you.
All right. Good evening. I was sitting back there kind of reflecting of how many times maybe that I've been up here on this project. So I am going to start with, as we've had this slide before, and I want to spend a little bit of time on recapping the project again for everybody. So December 1st, we announced that Puma Development was interested in developing and preserving the Char House. The main priority of the project is preservation and reuse of the Char House, with the larger project being a mixed-use development that would surround those historic buildings at the former Imperial Sugar site. Previously, Puma has shared some of their inspiration for the project, places like the Pearl in San Antonio, which is a mixed-use development, which also has a historic aspect to it of the preservation of some of those buildings around there. The mixed use component would include office, retail, food and beverage, maybe event entertainment space, as well as multifamily and other residential options, whether it be townhomes or more of a zero lot line urban home option. So that's kind of the overall piece of the project. These are the same, this is the same slide that we've presented since the beginning of the project at the town halls, as well as the other times that I've been up here on this project. So the main benefit of this is that we will get preservation of the char house as the lead in for the project. There has been past proposals on this site for redevelopment of it, and is not led with preservation and redevelopment and reuse of the char house building. So this is the more specifics of what is proposed for that. The idea would be that the Cannon, which is a innovative co-working, also much more than that in terms of entrepreneurship for a portion of the building, other office space, as well as retail and food and beverage that would be associated with those uses in the rest of the building. So redevelopment, as I think we've already talked about, thanks to John's presentation, as well as that redevelopment is one of our 5 all-in initiatives and the City Council's top priority. Redevelopment and preservation of the Char House and the Imperial Historic District specifically is the top priority for redevelopment. We have taken a very proactive approach to this project, announcing before the developer even has the land as that they own it. They only have it under contract. So we have said before that we are at step 0. I have on the next slide of sort of the milestones that we've laid out that need to be met in order for this project to proceed, meaning that Puma would acquire the property and take their next steps in terms of preserving and redeveloping the Char House. There was a $5 million reimbursement agreement that was approved by City Council on January 3rd. This $5 million is specifically for pre-development costs and construction costs for the Char House. And it is exactly what it says in the title of a reimbursement agreement. So costs are only being reimbursed as they are incurred, specific to what is outlined in that agreement for the pre-development and construction costs. So $5 million hasn't been already invested into the Char House or has even been given to Puma Development. This is incremental steps towards making that overall preservation and redevelopment of the Char House. These are the outstanding needs and milestones for the project. The top one being the financial support. So I already mentioned the reimbursement agreement. There is a lease agreement, which is what we are going to be discussing tonight. And then advancement of public infrastructure reimbursements as it relates to the TERS that is in that area. We have not gotten to that point yet. There's then the zoning approvals, which is going to be going to P&Z next week. This includes a land use plan amendment as well as a general development plan, which includes kind of the skeleton of the overall uses in that area, including the residential components that are related to that general development plan. It is not a final development plan. The next part would be land acquisition. This is Puma moving forward with their purchases agreements, which encompass about 40 acres at this point. So then moving forward and closing on the property towards the end of the year. And then finally securing private financing and other funding sources to move this project along. The historic tax credits is an important funding source for the redevelopment and preservation of the Char House. And we are taking steps towards that through the pre-development agreement on kind of initial steps of getting that financing. So again, this is the whole package of what is being presented in order to preserve and redevelop the Char House and future redevelopment of the larger area. And all of these are the milestones that will need to be met in order for the project to move forward. Community engagement. I already mentioned that we announced on December 1st. There was two town halls. We also had a smaller stakeholder meeting with representatives from the surrounding neighborhoods. You have there listed how many people attended the 2 separate town halls. We've also had a tremendous amount of owned and earned media interest in this project. We have a newsletter that is related to the project webpage that we have sent out announcements in advance of milestones being met, and then of course online engagement as it relates to the project. So the city uses a platform called Zen City, which is used to try to capture the total picture of sentiment out there. So this is the time period from December 1st when we announced it to today. And this includes social media, email, so emails that are coming in through that project webpage, as well as emails that are sent, whether it's to a staff member or we have ways of inputting it so it's collected. And then we also took in-person survey data at the town halls, and that data was also inputted into Zen City. So the limitations for it is it cannot gather social sentiment from private Facebook groups or Nextdoor. But this is the latest in terms of what the community sentiment is from this Zen City platform of what it's showing from all of those different types of engagement. 68% positive, 2% negative, and 30% neutral. The neutral sentiment usually means that, you know, someone may have tagged a friend to kind of share the information, or they just made a very simple statement like, keep residents updated once you start the project, something that is neutral in nature. So the lease agreement. The lease agreement that is before you tonight for consideration, this is a way to continue to support Puma being able to secure private financing for the remainder of the Char House development. This is specific to the Char House. The city is a credit-worthy tenant, so the purpose is for, if we were to enter into this lease, that it will help them secure the private financing for the remainder of the project. The hope is that we never actually take action or occupy the lease, but if that were to occur, we also have these terms laid out. But there are opportunities that we would not actually occupy the lease or use the lease, that we would sublease, or other tenants would go into that space instead once the project is developed. The terms of the lease are that it would be 3 floors, approximately 27,000 square feet. I have the total estimated annual rent and expenses there at a 1.188, and then the details of the base rent versus the operating expenses. The total estimated rent and expenses over the lease term, this is the estimate based off of some of those fluctuating costs, is 6.1. So again, this is only if we were to actually utilize the lease, occupy the space, and pay the full rent over the 5-year term. Because there is not the intention of actually using the lease, because we're doing this in order to secure financing for the remainder of the project, there are no renewal terms in the lease. So this is for the purpose of helping them secure private financing for the remainder of it. And of course, there's also no security deposit required either. Some of the other lease agreement terms, there is an allowance for $80 per rentable square foot towards tenant improvements. There would be a 3% construction management fee that would be also charged in order to manage the design and construction of the tenant improvements if that were to occur. And that 3% can be paid out of the allowance of the $80 per rentable square feet. There's a tenant commencement date, which means that tenant improvements are complete and it's ready for us to move in, install fixtures and fittings, and that date is no later than May 1st, 2027. The city may sublease as a part of this lease, and there is a mutual termination and amendments clause, which includes a termination fee of 1.5. This is a form of reimbursement to the landlord for building construction costs, including the construction allowance, and would be prorated to the square footage amount terminated. Upcoming next steps on this project, these are the entitlements or the zoning approvals that would need to take place. And so those are the upcoming dates. February 14th is the P&Z public hearing. February 21st is the city council public hearing and first reading of the ordinance as it relates to the zoning approvals. And March 7th would be the second reading. Those are the upcoming milestone dates.
Open it up for questions. Anybody? Go ahead.
Sometimes he does that on purpose, I know. Hey, you've said a lot, and we've read a lot, we've met a lot. There's a lot going on here. And I am so excited as a Sugarlander that they want so bad, everybody wants so bad to preserve the Char House and our history. I am so excited that this is the lead in this whole concept project. With all that said, I hear things about we've spent $5 million. I hear all these things. And none of that, based on what I just read, is accurate. It's post, correct? It's after this project should or would ever happen, would we make investments? Would we engage a lease for, you know, I mean.
Sure. So for clarification,
Yes.
on the 5 million, it was approved January 3rd. There were tiers to that agreement. The first tier was 1.5 million towards pre-development costs, and those are on a reimbursement basis. That 1.5 million, this is prior to the land actually being acquired by Puma. And so that is money that is available to Puma right now for pre-development costs. This is traffic studies. This is architectural things. This is engineering, historic tax credit consulting, those types of costs. And it's on a reimbursement basis only for when those studies are completed and those deliverables have been done by the consultants, and the city has ownership of all of those studies, engineering documents, everything. So if something were to happen and the project didn't proceed, we would already have all those due diligence deliverables that we now own as it relates to any future preservation of the Char House. The next part of the agreement was an additional $500,000 towards pre-development costs, and that was after the closing of the property. So they would have to close on the property in order to have access to that. And then the remainder of it, the 3 million, 1.5 is available for reimbursement. All this is reimbursement for construction costs related to preserving and redeveloping the Char House. And then the final 1.5 million is held back until final certificate of occupancy for reimbursement of construction costs.
Your details are fabulous. I wasn't asking for all that. You're a little faster than I expected. I just wanted to make sure my eyes are wide open to what is happening here. Okay, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'll make a motion to approve. Motion second. Your vote at this time, please. And it's a 6-0 vote. Thank you. This time we're going to get Councilmember Kermally back in. We're going to move to item number 8C, consideration of an action on authorization of a development agreement by and between the City of Sugar Land, Texas, and Sci-Fi Network Sugar Land LLC to install, operate, and maintain a fiber optic network system. We've got Steve Bundy, our IT Director of Data and Security. Steve, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. All right. Well, I'm going to introduce an exciting opportunity the city has with the company Sci-Fi. Scott Bradshaw is here. He is the president of Sci-Fi. He'll be speaking to the group after I get through just a couple quick slides. So Sci-Fi is proposing the development of an open access fiber optic network infrastructure through city right-of-ways. This is a non-exclusive open access network. It will be used by the internet service providers or ISPs to deliver broadband internet access. Sci-Fi is not a franchise utility, so they're actually creating the highway for folks to get on there and use the internet. This is 100% full coverage across the city, and that includes a lot of underserved areas. It also includes all residents, all businesses. It's fully funded through private investment with no cost to the city, and future use of the fiber optic infrastructure by the city. We expect to be able to use it going forward. This is a 30-year agreement with the 10-year extensions. There's quarterly payments that are paid by By Sci-Fi, it's either going to be the larger amount of $10,000 a quarter or $2.99 per connection. There's $500,000 in escrow available for damage and remediation. This is a 12 to 24 month construction planning project, at which point they'll begin construction. The total project is 48 months in total. So it's a 4-year project, and that includes those 12 months of planning. Construction is by microtrenching and directional boring. This should reduce impact to greenways and things like that. It's just a 2-inch slit, about 12 inches down, and then they just cover it back up again. Permits are required for each stage of the build out, so the city will be involved in some oversight. And there are also 2 1,000 square foot sheds on city right of ways or on city property that they will lease or purchase. And with that, I'm going to ask Scott to come up here and talk a little bit about Sci-Fi and what they're planning to do.
Thanks, Steve. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. I appreciate your time, council members. And I certainly don't want to labor on what we already went through on the workshop, so I certainly don't keep this high level.
Give us the abbreviated version.
I intend to as much as I possibly can for you, so, and I'll try and complement that with the dulcet tones. So, as I go through this, and it is very much just a selection of nominal slides. Any granular detail you want to focus on in those particular slides, do feel free to do so, and I'll aim to satisfy your questions accordingly. So, Sci-Fi Networks, just in summary from what we discussed in the workshop, we're a private developer. We are not a utility company. We do not wish to be regulated that way. Those types of organizations have the power through the state to come and build within your infrastructure in the way they see fit, as long as they conform to code. And many things come along that in regards to disturbances, disruption, and things that really the city staff have to feel from the constituents in the community. Sci-Fi wants to do it very differently, and this is what we're doing across the country in 10 different states right now. Sci-Fi wants to take, or we are taking, the partnership approach. So we come along with our development agreements as a private developer, and that development agreement really just encompasses all the necessary language in regards to how can we build in your rights of way, how are we not allowed, what are the necessary insurances, the timeframes we govern against us to ensure that we actually fulfill those satisfactions, the guarantees that we build the entire city, we do not leave anyone behind, all neighborhoods, everyone within those neighborhoods, and I say we do that in their particular time frame. What makes Sci-Fi very different is that partnership approach. We want you to influence our design. If we're going to build this, Sci-Fi is paying for it. This is a zero cost to the taxpayers in the entire community. But given that we're going to pay for this large sum of money, and this is a long-term investment for us as a private developer, we really want your influence. How would you see the community growing? Are the neighborhoods, are there initiatives you have, are there developments on the way that you feel could really be served well by fiber connectivity? Our networks are open access, true open access. We do not provide service to the public. We open up that infrastructure to as many different internet service providers as possible, and what we also call service providers. Those are organizations such as telemedicine, home security. The purpose of the infrastructure is for the future. Fiber to the home, the fiber to the business that this infrastructure serves is just an ancillary benefit. We are really building for the entire future. And as you can see on the slide in front of you right now, since we actually started construction in 2019, we already have 38, actually we now have 39 because McKinney about half an hour ago just unanimously approved with City Council the same agreement as before you this evening. So 39 cities across 10 different states. Those are serving, or will be served when fully complete, just over 2 million premises and about 3.5 million people. Each of those are the same offering that's in front of you today. Sci-Fi will pay for the entire thing. We will maintain it. We will upgrade it. They're all true open access. We have multiple internet service providers on our networks now in communities where AT&T, Charter Spectrum, Comcast are serving that community. The internet service providers on our network are lower cost on the fiber, so instantly saving to the constituents. It is very much customer serving first. And I say that is within 10 different states. And Texas is growing at a quick rate, and we're super excited about that. The reason Sci-Fi does not want to provide service to the public, we just want to ensure the infrastructure is built the right way for the people. We are an incredibly customer-centric organization. By way of example, every single week during the active construction build, Sci-Fi pays for food trucks in that active neighborhood. We roll those food trucks, we pay for that. It is a opportunity for the neighborhood, all the people in that neighborhood, to meet each other, meet the ISPs that are going to be serving on the network, and for the people to ask, why you? Why should I choose you as the next ISP on this network compared to an AT&T and Charter Spectrum? What makes you so different? And it's not a contrived environment because that neighborhood is speaking to each other. So all that great communication is going on. So from the weekly food trucks that we roll out through to sponsorships, softball teams, racquetball teams, running events, these are key things we want your feedback in. You absolutely know your community better than we ever will. So we're looking for very tasteful sponsorships that we can really bring into the community. Beyond there, we actually employ local. So we bring in construction firms that are building these across many of these different states on a very large scale. But we also want to really foster and drive economic development. Therefore, we employ local people. And one of the key things that we found is a great success is local community liaisons. These are individuals that are walking the street every day of the construction. So anyone in the neighborhood can ask the contractors who are constructing, can ask the community liaison people, what's going on, what are you doing? Whereas I'm sure you've had experience from yourself just on your municipal projects. If you're doing a mill and overlaying a project, you've got a utility company in your public right-of-way, maybe in the tree belt side, it's typically just signage they see and they don't really know what's going on. Sci-Fi is all about community engagement. It is Sci-Fi's risk, it is Sci-Fi's long-term strategy to really create this into a financially sustainable project with no risk to the city. What we're really asking for is, under this partnership, is access to your entire public right-of-way on a ubiquitous footprint. Ubiquitous being, we want to serve everyone, irrespective of what you earn, what you drive, and where you live in this community. Everybody becomes informed. During the actual construction project itself, we are putting the flyers out, the marketing material, the door hangers in a very tasteful way. The city has its own construction schedule website we dedicate just to you. It breaks down the city into what we call work zones. Those are managed work zones of where we're going to begin construction. We look for your influence on that. Where do you feel could have an immediate impact on this community? So we break that down into multiple zones and people can know where they can start pre-subscribing. So prior to Sci-Fi actually constructing within the community, a few things will be in place. One, we pre-allocate the entire project cost. We do not believe in neighborhood by neighborhood success. So if the first neighborhood does well, then we'll organically build the next one. Our guarantee to you is we will forward fund that entire project cost. The reason we're able to do that and commit to that promise is we're backed by one of the largest pension funds in the world, an organization called APG. APG managed right now, just give or take, about $600 billion in assets. They not only invest in our Fiber City projects, which is the branding of our investment, but they also directly invest in Sci-Fi, which is why we're growing at a significant rate and really pioneering open access throughout the entire country. Now, I know you don't like billboards, but it's up there anyhow. So what I'm really looking to show you here is, again, we want your feedback. And this is really all about, you can start to see the difference between using the powers governed by the state to just come and access your right-of-way and how do you think this is going to work for your community? What is tasteful for your community? We want the feedback from you. So park benches, bus shelters, gas stations, where is good for us to advertise? How do you feel the most tasteful and most well received within your community? It just, and I know I continue to say it, but it really needs to resonate that this has to be a partnership given the scale of investment from Sci-Fi all the way through to the media. So where is best to advertise? Online, offline media, what type of message really resonates with the community? And this is really from Sci-Fi's investment into your community. This is what we hope would be the outcome. This is what we're experiencing. This is what we're receiving in all these different states, from the East Coast to California, where we're heavily focused, or where we started. This is a multi-million-dollar project. Sci-Fi is looking to invest well over $100 million of our private risk into the community in return for you giving us access to your public right-of-way so we can bring on this competition, give people choice. It does serve everybody, but again, just to reiterate, I'm building for the future. My fiber is going to be throughout all the streets, throughout the entire city. I'm actually building what we call a smart city infrastructure, and that really is a coining of words in this day and age. But a lot of cities are looking at it differently. I have communities in California right now. Public safety is their primary, not fiber to home, not fiber to business, public safety. How do they get a first responders quickly to a scene in a way that really maximizes the opportunity of saving an individual's life? They're using drone technology. That drone technology they're looking to use to relay video back over our infrastructure where it's actually a secure municipal layer. and it feeds back into the first responders. So individuals, as they arrive on scene, those first responders, they are well informed of what they're entering into and can make a better judgment. Through to our network isn't gigabit, it's 10 gigabit straight off the bat. Where everybody's chasing 1 gig, we're already there with 10, and the 25 gigabits is already in the future. It's just not commercially viable right now. So our networks to the residents, symmetrical 10 gigabit. The reason we've actually changed our infrastructure is we have a number of cities we're working with driven heavily by the school districts. They want fiber to every child's home. So should there be another pandemic, should there be a natural disaster, they could still receive the education they deserve in a very high capacity manner. The municipality, businesses, 100 gigabits. This is where we really begin to differentiate ourselves. And no, not necessarily relevant to your community, because pretty much how awesome you are from the research we've done as an organization, Sci-Fi goes that step beyond. We have a unique product to us called Fiber City Aid. There is always a portion of a community that is disadvantaged. They just don't necessarily have the same disposable income every month that everybody else does. And Sci-Fi is, again, all about not leaving anyone behind. So we actually subsidize out of our pocket. We actually reduce the wholesale rates we charge ISPs to actually then be able to lower the cost to that particular person. But what we don't do, which everyone else is doing, it really is a crying shame, we don't reduce the speeds. We don't penalize you just because you don't have much money. It is fiber, it is gigabit speeds, but Sci-Fi really subsidizes that low cost of those families. The difference there, we let you choose. We do not dictate who should qualify for that. We ask you as your leadership, who do you feel qualifies for that type of low cost? Local employment, as I mentioned, the digital divide, driving equality, and this right now, based upon the engineering designs we completed, looks to be around about 900 miles of fiber connectivity. We've been speaking with the city for, give or take, about 2 years. This is not something we're just knocking on the door on a whim and hoping you approve. We've gone through the education process with city staff. It's the exact same agreement that McKinney unanimously approved about an hour ago. It's the same as Odessa, it's the same as Arlington. We're moving into permits as we speak. We really want to help. You are not being invested in by the incumbents in a way that you should. We want to be that organization, really, you allow us to come to your community and spend these private dollars. And I do welcome any comments on any of that information.
Motion approved. You have a second? Question, Stuart?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if this is a question for Scott or for Steve or for our city attorney. I'm a little bit concerned about a Pied Piper kind of a situation. One thing that council doesn't know is what about this 30-year agreement? What kind of recourse do we have if you're not providing good service? For instance, if a line is cut, there's performance. How soon do you have to repair it? What if you're not providing enough ISPs so that we can have competitive pricing? On and on. I can think of all kinds of parade of horribles that we could face. I'd like to know what our recourse is and how our hands are tied and how we can get out of this deal if it turns out to go belly up. And I don't have any of that information. In fact, before the mayor made his motion, which hasn't been seconded yet, I was actually considering making a motion. I'm considering making a motion to table it till our next meeting, so that council members can find out the other side, the exculpatory part. That's my concern.
If I may, Jim, ever go. So, in answer to multiple questions you posed forward, all of them are answered within the development agreement. Within there, you have termination clauses, you have breach clauses for performance. We actually say that we will bring on multiple internet service providers within a given time. The reason we forward fund the project is it guarantees the project cannot run out of money. The entire city will be built. The difference is, if you look at an ISP under the governance as they have with the PUC, the public utility, they can come in and really build how they want. They are the only monopoly. They will continue to be the monopoly in this environment. Yes, we're going to construct, but it's a dig once policy. If we aren't building the way the permit has been approved, you can stop us, stop the project, and we have to satisfy the permit. And that's the key thing you have. And that comes down to the difference here of a monopoly that can come in with the right of the state, or a partnership where we let you stop us. In answer to your question, if we're not doing it right, you have the written language in the agreement to stop us, and we guarantee to you we will bring multiple ISPs.
I think if I remember the agreement, it's also non-exclusive.
And it is a
So any other provider that,
Correct,
that wants to make a pitch to the city, you know, it's a performance-based agreement. If anybody else wants to do it, they can certainly approach the city.
And these are great questions, and I know the gentleman on the left
Go ahead, Stuart,
called it out
follow
earlier.
up.
But this is the process McKinney also went through.
Sure.
They travelled around the country. They asked exactly the same questions, and really that's why they unanimously approved earlier this evening.
Well, and I very well may be at the same place McKinney was an hour ago. But what about successors? What about, I mean, I assume if someone comes along, backs up, you know, dump truck full of money up to your front door, you might consider selling. And I understand that you're backed by the world's largest pension plan, et cetera, but a pension plan is in business to make money, and if they can make a profit by flipping this. So I haven't seen the other side of this yet. I very well may be enthralled by it by the next meeting after I get to see the other half of it. But at this point, I can't vote yes just because I don't know how our hands are tied.
Anyone else? William, go ahead.
So I want to start by saying thank you for your willingness to bring this to Sugar Land. We are certainly worthy of the best. I'll be candid with you because it sounds like that's what you're trying to deliver to us. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
I also love competition. I love the whole thing that you're saying. And as you're telling me, I'm like, man, this is the deal, right? With that said, our community, we have a lot of homes in our community that the right-of-way have these massively beautiful trees. And I would say a really beautiful old trees. And I just picture, because I'm in construction, and I'm thinking, how in the world can you do a 12-inch trench, even this wide or this wide, and avoid these massively beautiful trees? Now, that's just one thought. So, like Councilman Stewart, I love this. There's just so many questions I can't get answered. I'm in his position. I'd love to see it tabled. I'll go to Arlington, and I'll sit and meet with homeowners. But I don't have time, so I can't support this yet.
And to the point in regards to construction, but I probably missed a very fundamental point, and it really goes a long way to the point you raised in regards to the arborist approach. Before Sci-Fi ever puts a spade in the ground, we do something very different to everyone else. And again, this is what the incumbents don't do. We GPS, ground penetration radar, and I'm sure in construction you understand that more than most, is that we radar the entire running line for the entire city. So we're not only capturing those route lines and everything else, we're also capturing the utilities that potentially are there in the trench that we're looking to excavate within. That GPR, we don't just keep it for us. That is so valuable to the city. We hand that over to the city free of charge. You will get to know everything we find, but based upon the data that comes back from that, enables us to understand where those route lines are, and then we can hydrobore underneath or go around them rather than cutting through. This is what we're doing in Kenosha, Wisconsin. It's in exactly the same build there. It's all in the tree belt. We work especially with the arborists. We go through all the design check processes. We use the GPR technology. When we go under the driveway aprons, because we don't cut through, we use the same process again. Everything we have, the key thing, we want to be as transparent as possible, because the more you know about our infrastructure, the more risk mitigated it is that it's actually going to be damaged by somebody else.
One last follow-up, if I may. You look, man, you say everything I want to hear. I'll be honest with you. I love all that. That's perfect. One thing that came to my mind as you were speaking, here in Texas, you know this, we have the Texas 811 service, and that is for electricity, gas, blah, blah, blah. Since yours is a private line, would that be a service that 811 locates? I'm just curious.
So our contractors and Sci-Fi both register with the Texas 811 to do the appropriate locates, and Sci-Fi undertakes the locates as and when required to do so.
Okay.
Same process.
And as we look at this project, I mean, we're, I don't know, 40,000 homes-ish, not even thinking about the businesses, but it's all of us. So if we at least had something of experience to where we can walk up and go, wow, this guy, this is for real, this is that great, And I believe that if I have the time, and you know me, Mayor, I'll be in Arlington by Saturday because I want to shake the hands of the community, because here's what I think they're going to say. I think they're going to say, this is awesome. We're so excited to finally have this kind of service to our home because we don't have nice homes. And I think that's what's going to happen. But then again, I may get there and they go, oh, this has been so frustrating. I don't know. And so to Stuart's comment, I don't know the other side of this beautiful coin, and that's all I'm asking. I just need a little time. That's all I'm asking.
Mike?
Yeah, Mayor, a couple things. Councilman Jacobson, it'd be helpful for us to know what you need, because I know our attorneys have looked at the agreements, we're comfortable with it, but what more would you need to, that we would need to bring back? And then just second, this is not something new in the sense we permit and inspect fiber going in all the time in the city. The council expects us to be trailblazers. They expect us to deliver cutting edge things. And so it's just, I need to know what needs to be done to table it. I wouldn't want it to be elected officials going to other cities to inspect it themselves, because quite frankly, y'all have a staff, you have a city manager, and if you don't trust the expertise of that, then you need to find a new city manager. And so I need to know what, because in all honesty, this makes our ability to deliver these types of projects and negotiate them and have credibility to do it more difficult. So it'd be helpful for me to know what that is. We have our city attorney that can, I think, answer questions about that as well, but that would be helpful for me.
I will let you know that the agreement that's before you this evening is not the same agreement that was originally presented to us. We have done some significant revisions to what their original document was. So we have significantly more protections than their starter agreement is. Quite frankly, I'm surprised they agreed to some of the things we asked for. We got more things than Arlington did, because I did talk to Arlington. I have a copy of their agreement. I've talked to a few other cities and have copies of their agreement. So I can tell you we have a better deal than everybody who gave me a copy of their agreement, because I thought, hey, if they can get it, we can get it times 10. So there are provisions. Section 8 is talking about breach or default. They have to get our permission if they go and try to assign it to somebody that's not directly owned by them or didn't directly purchase them. So I do have some confidence in my drafting skills, and I'm hoping I'm just as good as the Arlington attorneys, as well as some other cities, that I did better than they did. I'm happy to get you any information that you need to move forward, but I can tell you that as drafted, I think we're coming out ahead. I think that there's quite a few provisions in here to protect the city, and I had quite a few conversations with the Arlington city attorney and talked through some of the issues they had, and I believe I've addressed some of those in here.
Go ahead. Sure.
Meredith, thank you. And Scott, you know, this is information that we haven't been presented with. And yes, I completely trust staff. You know that. But I didn't get we haven't gotten the other half of this. And if Meredith is content that we have recourse, that was just my main question. Do we have recourse for non-performance or for poor performance? And if you're telling me yes, then that's what I needed to know. That I'm content, and I'll second the mayor's motion.
I would be happy to point out Section 8 of the agreement, and it talks about the right to cure and the different things we can do. We have pretty substantial insurance and performance and payment bond requirements for them that we can call up to have the project cleaned up, finished. We have a very short window requiring them to come out. If there's a repair that needs to occur, the standards they have to return the right of way to. It's got to be equal to or better than how they found it, because this is Sugar Land. But we expect them to be out there almost immediately. If you're going to go into our easements and you're going to provide a service, you're going to stand behind it.
Okay, that's just
Yes,
all.
sir.
That's all I needed to know. So you heard me second. So.
Good point. I just want to be clear to everyone, because I can get people excited on this and to the point you raised, but I also want to put it into reality. I'm not turning up here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and starting this is really a 12-month project. We want your ideas. We want to understand the growth. We want to understand your initiatives, which both goes to both your gentlemen's point. It just gives you so much time to go through the mixes, because no matter what you sign today, I actually still cannot construct if you don't issue me a permit in the
You gotta
first
design
place.
it first.
Yeah.
Sure. Carol?
Yeah, so I didn't catch your answer to the 811 question. So if you call 811, so the Sci-Fi fiber optic line is included.
Correct, and we also put the curb markers where we actually do the lateral drops into the right of way, so identifiable in that manner, just to aid that process.
Okay, and of course, Meredith has talked with the legal in other cities, so I assume our IT staff has spoken with IT staff in other cities extensively where they are using the sci-fi?
So we haven't spoken to, I spoke to the CTO, or I had an email message with the CTO of Arlington. So they're pretty comfortable with what they're doing. They already have their own fiber optic network, so they're not doing the smart city arrangement that we're looking to do with Sci-Fi. So, but we have indicated, we've identified that we have a need for about 60 miles of fiber optic cable to support our facilities and our IT infrastructure, or our just city infrastructure in general, and city assets. This is an avenue towards that is phenomenal. We would not be able to do it at this cost point under any other circumstance. And so being able to leverage that fiber optic network that Sci-Fi is putting in is going to change how we operate as a municipality in many ways, especially in terms of future proofing and things like that. So we're totally comfortable with what they're doing. We understand the technology. We're not surprised by any of it. So we're really excited about it ultimately.
Thank you.
Scott, I was not present at the workshop, but I was watching it at home, and I was almost sent Thomas a question, can I log in now? I'm in the telecommunications business, and I have been for 23 years. And I've got some questions that I proposed to staff yesterday. They didn't have all the answers, so I've got some for you. 39 cities is what you have up and running.
No.
Okay.
39 cities is what we have signed. We have 8 projects underway concurrently, and we'll have 24 of those cities in construction this year. And the reason we don't have up and running is because we started in 2019. Everybody knows that was not the ideal time to start because of what emerged in the entire world, but we actually worked through that.
So of these 39 cities that you're working with, how many are up and running?
Up and running, as in up and running being construction or active subscribers on there?
Subscribers.
2 of them, because it takes us, give or take, once we start construction, about a year, as I'm sure you can know yourself, to actually get the mainline infrastructure, the diversity and resilience of that. So when, should something happen, someone not adhere to a permit and cut our infrastructure, the network stays up.
And I know you've got now 2 running, and these are questions I didn't have answers to because staff did not have them. And Mike, that's my concern is staff hasn't spoken to the cities that are up and running today to look at what the end user, our customer, our resident, what is their take on this? How are they excited? Do we have any kind of surveys that these 2 cities that are up and running, how many subscribers, I don't know, are they happy? Have they had issues? Because it's too soon to go to Arlington because they haven't really broken ground per se there. And I know Steve told me that they spoke to the CTO as well. My concern for grade A citizens at Sugar Land is, are we getting grade A service? And we've got to find out from these 2 cities. And I think it's very early, and I don't have enough information to make a decision.
Yeah, Mayor, you know, we said at our fall retreat, and the council told me we don't want to follow, we want to lead. That was the direction I had. And so there's going to be times where I'm going to put the council in the position to have to make decisions that all the answers are not there. And so we're here with this. I'll also mention, this is not new. This is not new technology. This is not something we don't understand. We understand it. I'll also tell you, we're not requiring residents to use it. If this doesn't work, if it doesn't give, then they can use everything we have right now. At my house, I have multiple avenues that I can use. And so this is not a requirement on the resident. Yes, this is leading the industry. This is ahead of it, but we're not going to have all the answers, and that's my understanding. What the council expects of us is to be leading the way, and so that's where we're at on this. But this is not a requirement that residents use it. If it makes the most sense for them, they'll use it. If it doesn't, they'll use AT&T, Xfinity, whatever else there is. And so that's yeah. I don't know that we can get a better deal or answer any other questions that wouldn't still put us in the position of recommending approval.
A thought on this thing, Nisha. So we've been working, Chris, how long have you guys been working on this?
Our first outreach was probably late 21. So staff, Steve, myself, and several staff have been looking at this for well over a year.
Okay, so we've been working on this thing for over a year. It's non-exclusive, which means that any competing organization, be it a public utility or private, can come to us and they can run a competing line. And it's a performance-based contract, which which to Meredith's points puts in a lot of different protections. Is there risk for this council? Absolutely. But we've talked about this a number of times. We're going to have to get comfortable with managing some risk. If we want to be in front and actually doing some of the things that we're talking about doing, it's not going to be the same old stuff that we've been doing. We're going to have to take some risk. We're going to have to manage that risk. You've heard me say that. Managing the risk is key. And I'm glad we're having this kind of discussion, because we need to kind of flush out what this council's tolerance for risk is. Because if it's not of a more progressive nature, I mean, we just got through doing an equity deal, whether everybody recognized it or not, with Imperial. And we talked about that. We talked about that when I became mayor. And most of the council members that are here weren't even on it. We talked about that. And that's a degree of risk that we haven't taken before. But in order to move forward as a mature city, that's the kind of risk we're going to have to take. So, I'm happy to continue the debate. To Mike's point, I don't think we're going to be able to answer all the questions. So at some point in time, we got a motion, we got a second, we're going to have to call for the vote. But, I want to make sure that everybody's heard and that the questions are at least asked, whether we have the answer or not. So I'll open it back up to the floor with the council members. William?
So at no point to our city team am I saying you guys have failed. And by the way, Meredith, I think you're a pretty good attorney.
Could you save the tape, please?
Right. And with that said, and for the public that's watching on our cameras here, I want everyone to know Mike did bring this up. This has been discussed, but loosely. I found out Thursday this was going to be on the agenda. I still, in fact, thanks to Chris, they met with me yet Monday. Literally, it was like boom, 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 boom. I'm not afraid of fiber optic. I'm not afraid of any of that. I want to be trailblazers with Mike. I want everyone in the world to go, man, Sugar Land has got it going on. But for William, I'm looking at this going, boom, this is fast. I just need I need to know that when I'm allowing you or other contractors to open up that right of way, cause a problem or not. I just want to say, I knew this was a good deal from the beginning, and I just haven't had time. That's me. I haven't had time. That's all.
Please. And yes, Councilor Ferguson, we met yesterday. I would like to add one thing. I put a lot of credit in our city staff as far as what they can do, what they oversee. And if we haven't done some of the most invasive projects in people's neighborhoods and front yards and backyards, go show me another city that has. And I've fortunately been a part of a lot of those. The thresholds and the control that we have with Sci-Fi is far greater than we would ever have from our franchise utilities. They pay us a $75 right-of-way fee, and they go to work. And trust me, they hit our infrastructure. Sometimes they tell us, sometimes they don't. So, we had a great conversation yesterday, and I appreciated the questions and just the conversation. But as y'all know, with me for 16 plus years and being a city engineer, we have prided ourselves as far as on what we do to deliver a service to the residents. So the last thing we want is residents being unhappy with their, and then we have right to cure within the contract. The other piece of it is I think the biggest nuisance we're going to hear, a complaint we're going to hear, is people can't park in the streets when we're coming down to do the improvements. And that's typically where we've dealt with that in projects before. So, I would just ask the council to consider me, you've got a great staff at this city and everything else, and we've done these projects. I can't tell you how many thousands of feet and miles of road and drainage, just myself and working with Jesse and her team and Public Works and stuff that we've been able to do. But just wanted to lay that out there. I mean, based on our conversation yesterday, and I appreciate those concerns because that just drives us even more to do a better job through that process. Just wanted to make sure that was understood as far as, and we have those controls built into the contract language. We actually talked them into, or they agreed to pay us for our staff time and everything else, which Arlington and McKinney and others didn't get because I've seen those agreements as well. So thanks for that, Scott.
May I reply to Chris?
Sure.
Yeah. Chris, you were fabulous. You guys have worked through this to, I think, your extreme, if I may. And I'm just puzzled with 39 projects. Was it 29? 39. 30, I didn't know. with 39 projects, with 2 that are actually up and running, I heard, if I kept up. We've not seen this for real. And going back to your comment, as far as I know, and I've not been, I'm really young, I'm only 54, okay? I've never seen a right-of-way that is going to be opened up in front of every single home onto our business. I've never seen these kind of projects. You may have done 15 of them. I've never seen them. And they probably, chipmunk underneath the tree. I have no idea how invasive this is to our communities. All I'm saying is this is going fast. I love it. I love it. I love how you speak. I love your program. I love the competition. I love all that. I'm like, wow. I just don't have enough to make me say, let's go get them. I'm just throwing that, nothing against Chris or the team.
Absolutely.
That's fair. Sean?
Mike, Chris, Steve, we've spoken about this. My concern is the end user, our residents, 111,000 people. When we only have 2 cities in the entire nation that are up and running, I just don't have enough information. And I appreciate your time that you gave me yesterday as well. But I have a lot of questions, but I've heard Mike say we don't have all the answers. I've come in with a laundry list of them, but if I don't have the answers, I cannot allow this in our city.
Call the question. We've got a motion, we've got a second.
May I ask a question about the procedural question?
Go ahead.
Make a procedural question.
Go ahead.
If we vote on this and it's defeated, is it dead forever?
No, you can request to come back on a future agenda.
Okay.
I would like to let Scott provide some feedback to that if he's okay with that. They're the investor, not us.
It's your roads. At the end of the day, it's your roads. You govern them. You decide who comes in and who doesn't. Well, I say that's flippantly incorrect. You can't stop the incumbents from coming in as long as they conform to code. The ISPs that are using our networks, some of these ISPs are 20 years old. They're doing this themselves. The difference what Sci-Fi is doing is opening the door to a wider audience of residents and businesses for them to provide their customer-centric products. When you look at an ISP in the country, for those that may not be aware, it goes -100, 0 to +100, and they call that the Net Promoter Score. If you're at 0, you're deemed as a phenomenal ISP. At 0, the ISPs on our network, because we are very customer-centric, we cannot have one bad project because then no one else is going to want the project. The ISPs on our infrastructure are over +60. That is off the scale customer service. And that's not what we've done for them. That is what they've done on their own private networks. We're just presenting them to a wider audience. What you have in front of you, and I appreciate where you're going, it's going fast and everything else, but we've been working with the city for, I say, over a year now. We've worked with Liga. You have the best in the state contract to date. We have customers across the country. There's multiple videos online, businesses, residents, mayors, former mayors across multiple states that talk about this is a phenomenal opportunity. And I truly believe for yourselves, this is a phenomenal opportunity. If you table it, I don't want to give you my answer right now because it'll break my heart. So it really is up to you. I'm in a position, there's no cost to the city. Yes, there's a risk that you'll allow me access to the public right away, but that is really all of your risk. I'm going to pay for it. As many people can use it as we want. Will not be a monopoly. This municipality is going to be a huge beneficiary for the municipal connectivity between all of your communities. Wireless is coming. It's coming in a big way. They need capacity to connect those small poles. This is where we come in. If multiple people, multiple other ISPs choose to come in, an AT&T, a Comcast, and they're just going to keep trenching, they will own those trenches and you'll just have to adhere to whatever they choose to do. I'm giving you a dig once opportunity. It's a neutral carrier infrastructure that I will maintain and pay for. No taxpayer dollars. Please pass your motion and we'll see how we go from here.
Question's been called. Do you vote at this time, please? It passes 5-2.
I appreciate your
Thank you,
confidence.
council members. Item number 9, City Council, City Manager reports. Item 9A, Councilmember reports. Stuart, let's go to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll leave I'll leave the other ones that the other council members and I shared, and I'll talk about when you and I did Career Day at Colony Bend Elementary School.
That was fun.
And I started talking about financial planning, and when they found out I was assistant mayor, suddenly they wanted my autograph. But they asked me where the mayor was, and I said he's in the room next door. They all ran to him. So it was an eye-opening experience. Thank you.
And they were second to fifth graders. It was pretty interesting, some of the questions. Carol.
I spoke at the ribbon cutting for the Greatwood Village Drainage Project, and that was a $1.9 million project that was completed under budget, and everyone involved did a fabulous job. Let's see, most of council attended the First Colony Trails groundbreaking, and then
And nobody showed up except us.
That's right. We were the only ones there.
It was too cold.
It was very cold. The mayor's remarks were like brief to almost non-existent. And then Stuart, Susanna Shad and I attended the Fort Bend Mayor and Council Association meeting, and the guest speakers were from the Fort Bend Subsidence District.
Michelle.
Mayor, most of it's been said, but myself, Carol, Stuart, and Suzanne attended the Fort Bend Mayor's Dinner in Meadows Place, and it's always good to get with all of our colleagues all over Fort Bend County. And then many of us were at the Fort Bend Chambers Gala, where our very own Dr. Jay Neal won the Outstanding Award, Community Service Award, well deserved, and congratulations to Dr. Jay Neal of U of H.
Suzanne.
Thank you. I was with you guys for most of the things, so that's fantastic. The Sugarland Heritage Foundation had their event like on the 2nd, and that was a lot of great people there. It was a good event. And then we had, Carol and I painted bowls. That was quite an event in its own right. That is for the Empty Bowls event coming up. When is that? March? June. Okay, so June 9th, they'll have the Fort Bend Human Needs coming up, and our bowls will be there, so go bid on them. Thank you.
Jennifer. What? Go ahead.
Sorry. We attended the Steam Fest, Nashad, Carol and I, is that right? All the three of us. We went to the Steam Fest, and that was on the 28th, the Harmony School of Science, and we got to see some incredible kids do some incredible things that we would never be able to do. And we got to hand out awards, and we want to thank Afshin Merchant for that. It was just a fantastic event, so thanks.
Jennifer.
Mine have already been mentioned, but we're looking forward to Boots and Badges on Saturday, the 11th.
William.
Stuart always tries to one-up me, but I was referred to yesterday while I was with Cub Scout Pack 1199 here in Sugar Land. I was calling bingo for kids that have never played bingo before in their little uniforms, and they referred to me as the mayor of Greatwood. I had to correct them that I'm just a council member, but that was one of my big moments in my life. It only for a moment, so I know how Stuart feels. But I do want to brag for a minute. Our zip line adventure, the grand opening is March 22nd. So I'm looking forward to all of you being there, because mano a mano here, the mayor and I are going zip lining on March 22nd.
I
So
think I'm out of town for Nancy's
no,
birthday.
and we will not be on the same wire. That will not happen.
Trust me, we're not going to be on the same wire. I promise you that.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'll go ahead and yield my time. It's already been covered. Let's go to the city manager report.
Mayor, I've said enough.
This time we're going to move to closed executive session. We're going to have a brief recess, and we'll reconvene in the council dining room. Thank you all.